Discuss this further now with Xavier Abu Eid in Ramallah. He's a former Palestine Liberation Organization advisor. Really good to have you back with us, Javier. First of all, what's your reaction to the fact that the Security Council has approved Trump's plan for Gaza? What impact could it have on the Palestinian cause?
Thank you, Oscar. I think it's a very dark day for Palestinian rights in the United Nations. And to be honest, I think it's the first UN Security Council resolution that does not even mention a single previous UN resolution that have served as a basis for any resolution of the Middle East peace process, including resolutions 242, 338, 2334, that all speak about the 1967 borders and the need for Israel's withdrawal, including 2334 on the illegality of Israel's colonization. This is a resolution that at the same time sets a different legal status for Gaza and sets more obstacles for the achievement of the Palestinian right to self-determination. So I would not even be that satisfied on the sense that some people are trying to claim that the resolution supports Palestinian statehood, because in fact what the resolution does is to set conditions on a statehood. So just to be very clear on this, I think it's going to set a very dangerous precedent for the future. And I think, by the way, President Donald Trump managed to give legitimacy to his annexation plan of 2020 by the Security Council by adding this as a reference for any solution in Gaza.
Javier, the resolution hints at a credible pathway to Palestinian statehood, but Israel's Prime Minister says he remains firmly against the idea of an independent Palestinian state. I'm wondering, how do Palestinians view this contradiction, and does it weaken the political promise of this deal?
Let us say the following. When we talk about the state of Palestine based on international consensus, we are talking about Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. So any resolution that doesn't include the entirety of the occupied territory of Palestine, including, of course, the West Bank and East Jerusalem, is not going to really call for Palestinian statehood. In other words, I think what this resolution does, in fact, is to weaken the Palestinian cause and Palestinian rights to statehood. Let's look at the resolution from a different perspective. From a different perspective, people may argue that we are setting an end to the Gaza genocide in Gaza, that the Israeli genocide, sorry, that Israel is not going to keep pushing for the ethnic cleansing plans they had or annexation in the besieged Mediterranean strip. However, it cannot be sold as a pathway for Palestinian statehood. Just let's look at one particular element. We've had 30 years of Palestinian institution building supported by the international community. And now this resolution says that we're going to get something called a board of peace, quote unquote, which is nothing else than a foreign imposition on Palestine that will set a different status for Gaza and the West Bank. So, for example, according to the plan, if I'm not mistaken, this quote-unquote board of peace will be allowed to negotiate on behalf of Gaza, to sign treaties on behalf of Gaza. So in fact, it separates Gaza from the West Bank through a Security Council resolution. I think it's very troubling for anyone who welcomes this as a step towards peace. Certainly it is not.
As we've been reporting, Hamas has rejected the resolution, calling it international guardianship over Gaza, and says it won't disarm despite the mandate that's included under this deal. Do you think that stance could potentially set up a clash or a conflict between the group and the proposed international stabilization force if and when it's implemented?
Let us not forget that Hamas actually accepted the plan at the beginning, and it was part of the process to reach to a ceasefire. And I think it is overdue time for Hamas to also respond to many questions that many Palestinians have, including in Gaza, about the management they've had of the situation and where we have reached. But I think that beyond Hamas' stated opposition over the past 24 hours, I think also there is an overall opposition by Palestinian civil society, human rights organizations, and many Palestinian political leaders. But I believe also that this is not only about what Palestinians oppose, but also what Palestinians want. And here it's not about reinventing the wheel. If we're talking about a credible pathway for statehood, the key element here is to end the Israeli occupation, which is not really addressed by this resolution. In other words, Palestinians are not asking for anything else than what international law and previous UN resolutions have been very clear about, including the International Court of Justice. However, there are, I think, different realities, and it would be very interesting also to look into what kind of threats, pressure, or unwritten commitments the US administration plays in order for this resolution to pass.
Okay, Javier Abu Eid, we'll have to leave it there. Great to get your analysis as always. Thank you.